Let's just kick off with the movements that we've seen on of course, the dollar broadly. It's, of course, swung dramatically last week. We had the euro dollar sitting at 130, looking to test that level at one stage, and then swinging back to around 130, 150, and of course sitting at 132 this morning. And it seems that optimism around the US recovery has abated slightly, settled down slightly. What are your thoughts on the fact that we've had a recovery in riskier currencies across the board?
Well, certainly the dollar had a very good week last week, I think largely related to the fact that expectations of QE3 are diminishing quite rapidly. We had comments from the Fed statement that led markets to believe that the prospects for QE3 were diminishing. And of course, we've had a run of really good recent US data recently that's also suggested to markets that there won't be further action from the Fed, at least not in the short term. So that's really given the dollar a boost. And I think what's happened recently, say from late Friday onwards, is that rotation has settled down a bit. So you're seeing the dollar, it's made some very good gains and it's giving up a little bit of that recently. That's why I see we believe the rand is a little bit stronger this morning in line with other risky assets.
Let's look at some of the key data that we're keeping our eye on this week. SARB's Quarterly bulletin is going to be released today. One of the key focuses for many is on the household consumption patterns and trends we're seeing. It has been the main engine for growth going in the past while, but of course there are many saying that now it could slow down. Debt levels are still high. What are your views on the key focus in terms of the Quarterly bulletin, and especially highlighting the household component?
Yeah, well, certainly the household component is going to be one of the key features to look out for in the Quarterly bulletin. As you mentioned, it's been one of the mainstays of growth in 2011, and that was quite surprising because consumers faced quite a bit of headwinds in 2011, and we expect the situation to remain much the same in 2012. So the resilience that you saw in household consumption was quite surprising. But looking at the higher frequency data, vehicle sales and retail sales still quite buoyant in the fourth quarter. So we're expecting that household consumption number to reflect that buoyancy as well. But if you look forward, then we saw quite a big slowdown in retail sales for January. So certainly going forward, we feel justified in the view that consumer spending is going to slow down, and consumers are possibly going to find 2012 a little bit more difficult than 2011. But apart from the household side, we'd also be quite keenly awaiting data on the current account. That's going to be especially important for the rand. We're expecting the current account to have widened slightly. We saw a pickup in economic activity in the fourth quarter, and that generally tends to correspond with a slightly wider current account. Also, we see a bit of weakness coming through in the trade balance in the fourth quarter, and quite a large deficit reflected for December. So the combination of those events should see the current account widen slightly.
We saw a current account deficit of 3.8% in the fourth quarter, and many are saying that quarter two is when we're going to start seeing the impact of Eurozone issues on the local economy. What are your forecasts in terms of the trend that we're likely to see in that deficit figure?
Well, we see a widening current account deficit over the medium term, so narrowing about 4.2, 4.3 to 4.5 over the next couple of years. But that's still, a lot better than what we saw in South Africa, during the boom period, and we had current account that was much closer to 7% of GDP, and quite a scary figure in itself. So we see the current account deficit widening, but remaining still relatively modest in comparison to previous years.
A quick comment on trading ranges that you're looking at for the day. Of course, we've got the dollar rand sitting in the 750s level this morning. Is that the trend likely to hold that strength that we've seen filter through?
Well, absolutely. The rand still remains pretty much fixated on international developments. There is a hope that it might take more of its cue from what's happening locally, given the wealth of data. But pretty much for the last couple of weeks, it's been stuck in that 750 to 770 range. And of course, with most of the international central bank meetings behind us and no more coming out of Europe for the time being, it's probably going to remain pretty much within that range over the next couple of trading sessions.